She was afraid Shane would make a big deal out of it, but he didn't. He even combed his hair, which turned out to make him look totally hot in ways that she was afraid to notice, especially if she had to spend the whole day with him. He'd picked a plain white shirt and his best pair of blue jeans, which were still out at the knees and frayed at the hems, and plain running shoes. In case you have to do any retreating, he said. Plus, kicking somebody when you're wearing flip-flops hurts. But you're not kicking anybody, he said quietly. Right? Nobody who doesn't deserve it, he said. What else do I need to fit in? Backpack. She found her spare. She'd brought two and tossed it to him. He stuck in some paper bags, a PSP and his iPod, and headphones, then raided the cabinets for twin keys and bottled water. We're not exactly going to the wilderness, Shane. You don't have to take everything. There are vending machines, yeah. I didn't see any lunch in that schedule. You'll thank me later. In fact, she did feel better with Shane loping along beside her. He was watching the shadows, the dark alleys, the empty building, watching everything. Even though he'd packed the iPod, he wasn't listening to it. She missed hers. All of a sudden, they wondered if Monica had it. They made it to campus without incident, and they were halfway across it, heading for her first class when Claire suddenly thought of something and came to a full stop. Shane kept going for a couple of paces and looked back. Monica, she said. Monica's going to be there, hanging around. She usually is. She'll see you. I know. Shane hitched the backpack to a more comfortable spot. Let's go. But Monica. He just looked at her and started walking. She stayed where she was. Hey, you're supposed to be with me, not leaving me. Monica's my business, he said. Drop it. He waited for her, and she reluctantly caught up. She doesn't mess with us. I won't mess with her. How's that? Wishful thinking to Claire's mind. If Monica really had gone in for Shane even a year or two ago, and gone far enough to kill his sister, she couldn't imagine any situation where Shane would just walk away. Shane wasn't a walking away kind of guy. The square concrete courtyard between the architecture building and the math science building was packed with students crossing between classes. Now that Claire knew what to look for, she couldn't help but notice how many of them had bracelets, leather, metal, even braided cloth, with symbols on them, and how many students didn't. The ones who wore the symbols were the shiny, confident ones. Sorority girls, frat guys, athletes, popular kids. The loners, the sideliners with dull and average, and strange. They were the ones who weren't protected. They were the cattle. Shane was scanning the crowd. Claire kept walking quickly toward the math building. She knew for a fact that Monica wouldn't be caught dead, or killing anybody, in a place that geeky. The only problem was that the third building on the quad was the business administration building, and that was, of course, where Monica liked to spend her time hanging out, looking for rich boys. Almost there. She was actually on the steps leading up to the math building when she heard Shane stop behind her. He was staring off into the quad, and as Claire turned, she saw Monica, surrounded by a cliché of admirers, staring right back at him. The two of them might as well have been alone. It was the kind of look that people in love exchanged, or people who were about to kill each other. Son of a bitch, Shane breathed. He sounded shaky. Come on. Claire grabbed his elbow. She was afraid he wouldn't let her pull him on, but he did, as if his mind was somewhere else. When he finally glanced at her, his eyes were dark and hard. Not here, she said. She won't come in. Why not? It would embarrass her. He nodded slowly. As if that made sense to him, he followed her to class. Claire had a hard time keeping her mind on the droning lecture, which was familiar anyway, and she'd read far ahead of where the professor was teaching, but mostly she kept thinking about Shane, sitting motionlessly next to her, hands on the desk, staring blankly into space. He wasn't even listening to his iPod. She could sense the tenseness in his body, like he was just waiting for the chance to hit something. I knew this was a bad idea. It was an hour and a half lecture with a 15-minute break in the middle. When Shane got up and walked out, she hastily followed him. He went up to the glass doors and looked out over the quad. She's gone, he said, looking at Claire. Quit worrying about me. I'm okay. Eve said she burned your house. And your sister. I couldn't get her out. She was 12 and I couldn't get her out of the house. That was my job. Watch out for her. He still didn't look at her. She couldn't think of anything to say. After a while, he walked away into the boys' bathroom. She dashed into the girls, waiting impatiently for the line to clear, and came back out to find him nowhere in sight. Oh crap. But when she went back to the lecture hall, he was sitting right there. He beamed this time with his iPod earbuds in his ears. She didn't say anything. Neither did he. It was the longest lecture and the least enjoyable that Claire could remember. Physics was in the same building. If Monica was waiting out in the wilting sun on the quad, she'd be getting a really good tan. Shane sat like a statue. If a statue wore headphones and radiated angry coiled tension that made hair stand up on a person's arms. She felt like she was sitting next to an unexploded bomb, and given all of the physics she'd had, she understood exactly what that meant. Talk about potential energy. Physics crawled slowly by. Shane broke out water and Twinkies and shared. Chemistry was in the next building, but Claire made sure that they went out the side entrance, not through the quad. No sign of Monica. She suffered through another hour and a half of chemistry and tension. Shane gradually unwound to the point that her nerves didn't jangle like sleigh bells every time he moved, and ended up playing on his PSP. Through most of the class, killing zombies, she hoped. That seemed to put him in a good mood. In fact, he was positively cheerful during chem lab, interested in the experiment and asking so many questions that the teacher assistant, who'd never had to come to Claire's table before, wandered over instead of Shane as if trying to figure out what he was doing there. Hey man, Shane said and stuck out his hand. Shane Collins. What's the word I'm auditing? Auditing the class with my friend here, Claire. Oh, said the TA, whose name Claire had never learned. Right, okay then, just follow along. Shane gave him a thumbs up and a goofy grin, and hey, he said in an undertone close to Claire. Any of this stuff blow up? What? Yeah, stupid bomb, I guess. I'm thinking about practical applications, bombs, things like that. Shane! He really was distracting. And he smelled good. Guy good. Which was different from girl good. Darker, spicier. The smell of made her go flutter inside. Oh, come on, it's Shane, she told herself. That didn't help. Especially when he shot her that crooked smile and a look that probably would kill most girls at 10 feet. He's a slacker and he's not that smart. Maybe he was, though. Just in different places than she was. It was a nice idea to her, but she kind of liked it. She slapped his hand when he reached for the reagents and concentrated on the details of the experiment. She was concentrating so hard, in fact, and Shane had gotten so engrossed in watching what she was doing that neither of them heard footsteps behind them. The first Claire knew about it was a searing, burning sensation down the right side of her back. She dropped the beaker she was holding and screamed. Couldn't help it because, God, that hurt. And Shane rolled around and grabbed somebody by the collar who was backing away. Gina, the monocat. She snarled and slapped at him, but she didn't let go. Claire, gasping in pain and trying to twist to see what was happening. On her back, she could see that it was taking everything. Shane had knocked the deck his prisoner then and there. TA came rushing over, and other students started realizing there was something wrong, or at least more interesting than lab work. Claire slipped off the stool at the table and tried to look at what was happening at her back, because it hurt. She smelled something terrible. Oh my God! And TA blurted. He grabbed the bottled water out of Shane's backpack, opened it, and dumped the contents over Claire's back, and then dashed through a cupboard on the side and came back with a box of baking soda. She heard it sizzle when it hit her back, and nearly passed out. Here, sit down. You, call an ambulance. Go. As Claire sank down breathlessly again on another lower stool, the TA grabbed a pair of scissors and cut her shirt off the back and folded it aside. He cut her bra strap too, and she just barely had the presence of mind to grab hold before the whole thing slid to her arms. God, it hurts. It hurts. She tried not to cry. The burn was easing up a little as the baking soda did its work. Acid has a low pH. Baking soda has a high one. Well, at least she'd retained some grasp of chemistry, even now. She looked up and saw that Shane still had hold of Gina. He twisted her arm behind her back and made her let go of the beaker. What remained of the acid she had splashed on Claire was still in the glass, looking as innocent as water. It was an accident, she yelped, and stood on her tiptoes as Shane twisted her. I tripped. I'm sorry. Look, I didn't mean to. We're not working with H2SO4 today, the TA said grimly. You've got no reason to be walking around with it. Claire, how bad is the pain? It's okay. I'm okay, she said though truthfully she had no idea if she was or not. She felt lightheaded, sick and cold, shocked probably, and embarrassment. Because God, she was half naked in front of the entire chem lab. And Shane, can I put something on? No, you can't let anything touch that. The burn's through several layers of skin. It'll need treatment and antibiotics. You just sit still. The TA turned to Shane and Gina and leveled a finger at her. You're talking to the campus police. I will not tolerate this kind of attack in my classroom. I don't care who your friends are. So he knew her, or at least he knew enough. Shane was whispering something in Gina's ear, something too low for Claire to hear, but it couldn't be good by the expression on the girl's face. Sir, Claire asked faintly, Sir, can I have a makeup on the lab work? And she passed out before she finished saying, and I'm sorry for the mess.